Next up, we have our division administrator with Federal Highway. He comes to us from Oklahoma, and he's going to give us an update on the Federal Highway perspective. So please welcome to the podium Ivan Marrero.
Thank you, Josh, and good morning, everybody. I guess I'm supposed to let you guys know about the social things to do out here in Salt Lake. I'm actually the worst guy to ask to do that because I've only been here for 2 years. So I'm still trying to learn my way around and what to do. But if anything, if you have a chance to go up one of our canyons, just drive up there or hike or take a bus or a taxi or Uber and get out there and hit any trail, you won't be disappointed. It's just amazing how beautiful these mountains are and what you can see up there. So yeah, get up to the mountains. That's the big advice I have. I'm gonna try to shorten my talk because I know being sandwiched between Carlos and Carmen is a little tough. They have that really good, interesting stuff to say. All I got is federal stuff that you can Google that anytime you want. But so I'll try to be quick. I won't take too much of your time. Again, I'm Ivan Marrero. I am the division administrator for the Federal Highway Administration office here in Utah. Been here for 2 years, and it's been a great 2 years. It's great working with a state DOT like the Utah Department of Transportation. They are just so innovative, and what Carlos just presented to you, I'm sure what you hear from Carmen is just going to be always state of the art. They're always staying one step ahead of everything. And they're not afraid to try new things. Sometimes they fail, but that's just the price of trying things out. And in the end, they get great results. And it's just a great way of doing business, I think. It's really the whole department thinks that way. They're always looking for new ways to do things and do it better, being innovative from the lowest person in the agency all the way up to Carlos. So it really is a pleasure for me to work with UDOT here and as a Federal Highway Administrator, and I'm sure our staff feels the same way. So I was going to talk about MAP 21 and then FAST Act and just talk about some of the changes and the things that really apply to the bridge and preservation. But let me just go ahead real quick. There's a couple of things that I want to make sure I hit. Okay, so MAP 21, that was the bill that got passed back in, I think it was 2014, might have been. So, and that it started the whole performance measure process. It required federal highways to establish target measures and targets and goals with the states, and it actually for infrastructure. These are the 7 goals that the Act actually established, and so there's one on infrastructure condition. That's the one that specifically applies to bridge and pavements. Like I said, there's basically the national goals were set dictated by the Act. Then we're supposed to get with the states and agree on measures, and then once we agree on what measures we're going to have, then we'll develop specific targets. State-specific targets or MPOS-specific targets. We'll develop plans, and we'll follow up on the plans and report on our accomplishments. And if there's we see that the targets are not being met, then we'll have to have a discussion and see what we need to do to change that. As far as measures, again, they we're supposed to, Federal Highways is supposed to, or USDOT, consult with the states and agree on measures, and we're supposed to develop a measure for bridge conditions on the national highway system. And so to do that, specifically for the bridge and pavements, we developed we issued a national proposed rulemaking back in January of 2015. That went out for comments. We received, you were able to provide comments through May of 2015 when it closed. So we are now in the process of developing the final rule, establishing the final rule, and that's expected to be done in October of this year. So what's in that final rule? Well, the proposed rulemaking proposed a couple of things, couple of measures. It proposed the percent of NHS bridges in good condition, and percent of NHS bridges in poor condition. Those were two of the measures that the proposed rulemaking proposed. And when we say NHS, those are all NHS bridges regardless of who owns them or who maintains them. And the other thing in the proposed rulemaking was actually the second bullet there, the actual MAP 21 set this particular measure, which is percent of deck area on the bridge classified as structurally deficient that does not exceed, 10%, basically 10% of your bridge deck area. That's the limit for or the measure for percent of deck area for structurally deficient bridges at 10%. So that was established by the act. So we didn't have any way around that. And so basically the rulemaking has got the ones on good and poor bridge conditions plus the 10% deck area. If after 3 years, then there's no, we see that the minimum conditions are not being met, then what it does, it moves funds around. It takes funds out of one particular program, the National Highway Preservation Program, and it moves it to, well, actually, it takes funds and moves it to the National Highway Preservation Program. So it takes a little bit of flexibility from the states, where now you can take the NHPP funds and move some of that around to other areas. It basically forces you to put that money back into the NHPP. But I can tell you in this state, I cannot imagine ever having to do that. They're doing real good with the bridges here. Okay. A couple of other things from MAP 21. It did take the National Highway, the Highway Bridge Program was one specific set-aside program within MAP 21. It did away with that and kind of put it on with the other funding programs. So basically, bridges cannot be funded out of the National Highway Performance Program and the Surface Transportation Program and those things. So there's no actual National Highway Bridge Program anymore. It did call for, we always had bridge inspection standards. It added a tunnel inspection standards program also. And so let's talk about the FAST Act. That was MAP 21. MAP 21 basically is the one with the performance measures. So the FAST Act was signed December of last year. It was really our first long-term funding bill for over a decade. And it provided us 5 years of funding. There were $305 billion over 5 years. And it transferred $70 billion over to the Highway Trust Fund from the general fund because there wasn't enough funding coming into the Highway Trust Fund, so we were at a deficit there. So it required $70 billion from the general fund. As far as the highway portion of that money, $226.3 billion is set aside for highway investment over 5 years. That's a $20 billion increase over 2015 and for over the 5-year period. So it amounts to about a 5.1% increase for each state for the first year. Then it goes down to 2% and then 2.1 and 2.4% through to 2020. So it is a little bit more money. I think when you throw inflation in there, it might not be as much, but better than nothing, I guess. We went through just years and years of just getting the same amount every year, and it just made it very difficult for us in the transportation industry to do our job because the money just wasn't there. So that $226 billion is spent, is divided, out of that, $207 billion is a portion through formula. That's the formula that Congress sets for each state. About half of that goes to two new programs. So we got 2 new programs. Half of that increase goes to 2 new programs, the National Highway Freight Program and a program called for Nationally Significant Freight and Highway Projects. And the remaining $17 billion goes to discretionary and grant programs, the federal highway administrative costs, and research and development. So that's sort of the way, and this is kind of sort of the way this graph illustrates how the money gets distributed every year. So there is increase. These are the different programs and the money. You can see that everything is higher than it was in 2015. At the bottom there, you see the 100% increase for the new National Highway Freight Program. So in average, I think it was about a 9% increase in each of the programs. This is kind of, if you take it and put it in a pie chart, this is what all that money looks like. You can see the NHPP and the STBG program pretty much get the bulk of the funds. Okay, so in addition to funding, the main thing that we saw in the FAST Act was just emphasis for streamlining and expediting project delivery. So specific to bridges, one of the things that it did was it provided an exemption to those bridges, common bridges built after 1945. So those are kind of exempt, well, basically those are now categorical exclusions or programmatic categorical exclusions. So you don't have to do an individual environmental document every time you come across one of those bridges from a historical perspective. It also, I know when I worked in Oklahoma prior to coming here, and I would hear, every time I was out in the field on a bridge project, I would hear from the states about, we can't, our construction window is so short because we got these birds nesting on our bridges. So that was a constant complaint we heard from the Oklahoma DOT. And I'm sure all of you that have migratory birds in your states have run into the same problem. So one of the things the FAST Act did was it granted, or it loosened the requirements on the Migratory Bird Treaty Act for bridges that are in serious or worse conditions. So if you have a bridge in very bad condition, then you're able to make a case for taking those nesting swallows. So basically it allows you to go in there and do that work that you need to do without having to worry about the swallows. Another thing it allows state DOTs, and I think this is a great thing, it allows them to bundle bridge projects. So if you have a corridor or an area where you have several bridges where you want to get to them, you can bundle them up into one project. It's a lot better than having to go with individual projects, separate projects. So I think that's a great deal. And you can also do it as a statewide bridge improvement program. Again, a lot of states were looking for this flexibility, and the FAST Act granted that. Track size and weight, this is a very controversial area, I think, with the FAST Act, but basically there were exceptions granted to some types of vehicles, emergency vehicles, logging vehicles in some routes in Minnesota and in Wisconsin. Let's see, Arkansas and Texas, they have some routes, I-15 and I-75, that will grandfather in for exceptions to the weight limits. And let's see what else. Vehicles hauling milk products, I guess you're allowed to issue permits for them. And we also granted some length exceptions for, let's see, for steered automotive transporters, which I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure it's important. And also the light duty trailers and car transporters. So basically those are some of the size and weight exceptions that the FAST Act granted. I mentioned a new program, this is the National Significant Freight and Highway Project, and this is a competitive grant project. So if you have a structure that's in a freight corridor, you can apply for these type of grants, and it would be eligible if selected. But it is competitive, and it has to be freight, or it says freight and highway projects, but I would say if you're on a freight route, you're probably more likely to get the grant. But this is all run out of the USDOT, so Federal Highways doesn't get involved with that. It's at a much higher level. As far as the National Highway Performance Program, and again, this is the program where they took the previous bridge program and moved it into the Highway Performance Program. Everything that was in in effect during MAP 21 carried forward to the FAST Act, the bridge standards and bridge and tunnel inspection standards. But one new thing here, it made reconstruction, resurfacing, restoration, rehabilitation, or preservation on non-NHS federal aid highways now eligible. So if you have a road that is not on the NHS, but it's and is basically local roads can now be eligible to receive this kind of funding. That's basically what it means. So that's pretty much my presentation. What the message I want to get out, all these legislations, all this stuff I talked about, going back to the Recovery Act, that's where we as a transportation industry really earned the trust of the public. We were able to deliver these projects, really fast to get the work out there again and stimulate the economy. Ever since then, MAP 21 and the FAST Act, they've all been sold as job bills. They want us to do things quicker. They want us to do things more efficiently and effectively. So that's just the expectation. And then when you guys come here and have this meeting and talk about bridge preservation, like Carlos says, you're helping us build that trust because you're coming up with techniques that allow our projects to last longer. We get more to extend the service life. You allow us to, when you do innovative type of treatments that that shorten construction time or extend the life of a project, it really creates a much safer highway. So the work you do here and the things that you learn in this conference, again, contribute to our efforts to earn the trust of Congress and the traveling public, and I thank you all for coming out here. I hope you do get a chance to get out and see the site. This really is a great place to be, and hopefully the weather will hold up. I'm not sure whether the rain's gonna come or not, but with all that said, I thank you for your time, and I will turn it over to Carmen. Thank you.